Starfield gets its day one patch, or does it? We also got to go over a multitude of things that have come out since launch, as well as some insane numbers around the game itself. We have the battles of the wikis again, just like with this game. We have an intrusive advertisement that people are noticing, and the discourse and narrative around the game seems to be changing as well. We got a lot to talk about. What's up, World? We're back in the review. We're checking out all things Starfield. Okay, so first up, let's just jump right into the actual numbers, how launch week did and how launch day did as well. So for Steam, it looks like we did top out at 234 for the first day, 236 up there as well, and then 245 going into a couple days of it. Obviously, this was over the weekend, so this kind of makes sense that we got a little bit more numbers, but however, we did actually get a higher number on launch. So the game actually did peak at 250,000 players on launch day, which was yesterday, technically from the early access. Now, currently that number is at 235,000 on Steam, which again, we have Game Pass, so these numbers are kind of odd. However, it does seem like it's going to be peaking again today, as we're in the morning and it's already at 235,000, so I'm guessing tonight is going to be another peak. And maybe we'll get the same thing like we did with BG3, where eventually it will peak with this weekend coming up as well. However, we also do got to go into the day one patch. A lot of people were waiting for a day one patch. They thought it would patch out the barriers and all this stuff, and day one patch would save the game, would fix the performance problems. However, it seems just like Hogwarts Legacy, the day one patch was actually for early access and not the actual release day. So 1.7 actually seems to be the day one patch, or what we got as considered as the day one patch. I'm a little surprised at myself on that one, as BG3 definitely got a day one patch for early access, and then it got a day one patch for the actual release day, so there was some stuff there. I hope we get some patches here soon, although I know it tends to break mods and things like that, but I do hope we get some sort of performance patch, although I don't think it's going to fix the game at all. There's clearly something wrong with the performance of this game, and I think it's going to take a lot more time to fix whatever the issues are, because the game should not be performing what it currently is for how it looks. I get the graphics look good, but it's actually mostly CPU bound for people, and so there's something going on there, and even Skyrim and Oblivion and Fallout 4 all had scheduling. There shouldn't be any differences here, and it shouldn't be running this bad. The frame timings are pretty bad. The frame latency is really bad as well on PC. Again, I get the console guys are at 30 FPS. However, I have heard that the consoles actually do drop into the teens from some of the testing from Digital Foundry, as well as some other game reviewers testing in certain locations that it does drop pretty low, which is crazy to hear on these new next-gen Xboxes and even kind of decent PCs that this game is running this bad. I really do hope we get some fixes there, as it has been my major point of contention with this game, is just running at 40 FPS in the city feels absolutely terrible for me, especially coming off games that are running at 100 plus FPS and they look just as good. Even Cyberpunk running for me at like 80 to 90 FPS, even in the exteriors. That's a bit odd there. Hopefully they do fix some of the CPU bound stuff and what's going on there, because it definitely shouldn't be running like this, especially for how it looks. There's no day one patch. The big update there is that there's no day one patch. It was for early access. That was the day one patch. We're not getting a day one patch for the actual release as it is showcased. There was some Steam DB stuff updated, but it was just for the game itself and kind of unlocking it and unrestricting it. Now we do have some numbers around the actual mod launch, which Starfield has already had 600 mods in less than a week, with 2.2 million mod downloads and nearly 100 mods uploaded every day to Nexus. Absolutely crazy. The modding community is going to be saving another Bethesda game, which is kind of just funny. I'm sure this game is going to be great with mods, and eventually it's going to push it to the next level, and there's going to be a lot of stuff there. We already got the Sky UI, although I do prefer the compact UI over it right now. I think the Sky UI is just a little much. It's also a little small, and it just kind of adds too much and kind of gets rid of the 3D graphic in the middle. It's a few things there, but I'll leave the link down to both mods down below. The one that I use, which is compact UI, and then there's another one, which is Sky UI, which is the brand new one, as the UI in this game is absolutely atrocious, and it definitely needs a full revamp there. Now we do have the Battle of the Wikis, and what do I mean by that? Well, with our last game that we just covered, there was a wiki issue where essentially there was a viewbotter on Twitch who was basically using it as an embedding site and embedding all of his Twitch streams onto there. There was a big controversy there. In fact, my video got attacked by a bunch of this creator's fans. However, we later learned that this person was also view-botting, or at least downvote-botting the subreddit. They were promptly banned from that subreddit. They were promptly banned, basically, from BG3 subreddit, and all of their wiki links were removed and replaced for the other wiki. So I don't mean to say I told you so, but yeah, hopefully we can kind of get these other wikis in place here, the actual community-run wikis, and not ones that are done by organizations or done by view-botters or embedders. I'm glad the discourse is finally changing, and I'll tank the dislikes there and what happens, because it ended up coming to fruition fruition, and I'm happy that I was able to be a part of that and push that wiki link as well. Again, my influence there was very, very little, but it does feel good to be a part of that and kind of hopefully push for the better. I'll leave a link to the real wiki down below. Now, people are apparently getting this intrusive ad on Xbox, and this does not look very good for Starfield as well as Microsoft, in my opinion. Apparently, people are getting this intrusive ad mid-game while playing other games, and people have also got it while playing Starfield itself. This ad or view page, it takes up your entire screen, it pauses your game in the background, and if you're playing a multiplayer game, that's probably terrible. It's also apparently crashed people's games and they've lost progress in those other games like Cyberpunk, or someone was playing Street Fighter and it happened. This seems crazy and a wild decision from Microsoft to push a full page ad like this while you're playing a game. Definitely not a good look there. I hope this is disabled and was some sort of inconvenience factor that they didn't think of, because this does not look good for advertisement. It also doesn't look good for numbers for the game, in my opinion, if they're pushing a full page advertisement to you while playing a different game. Yeah, it's not a good look to me. That's the same thing with AMD and FSR scenario there, so hopefully they fix that and get rid of that before this is really bad, because it definitely seems like this is already going mainstream and people are already having a lot of issues with it. Now, we had another concern here, although it's not really a concern. Basically, someone was asking, how have 2/3 of people in early access, how have they not joined Constellation or reached level 5? However, on Steam, the contrary of this is that actually 76% of players have reached Constellation and 71% of players have reached level 5. For some reason, console players download the game, they load it up, and then they close it or delete it or whatever. It happens every year. Sea of Thieves had the same thing. It was like eating a banana was like one of the first achievements you get, and it's like 90 or 80% of the players don't have this achievement somehow. It is kind of wild that like tens of millions of players have downloaded the game on at least Sea of Thieves, and then they haven't really eaten a banana or done anything in the game that like you would have to do almost immediately. It happens with every game on Xbox. It also happens somewhat on Steam, but to a lesser extent for the percentage and population. I think the reason also being on this one is that it's on Game Pass, so a lot of people are just going to download Starfield. They might play it for a few minutes and leave or uninstall or delete the game. The reason being is Starfield's opener is terrible. It is terrible. I think most people can agree. The game isn't terrible, right? But the opener for Starfield and the introduction is kind of universally agreed upon that it's terrible and just kind of bad. So I wouldn't be surprised if that number does drop significantly, especially with Game Pass, and people just kind of uninstall the game and don't really play past that point, as the opener just does not pull you in, and it's just not like I'm used to with other games. But it also happens with a lot of other games, so this isn't very unique to it, and especially as a divisive game as Starfield, it's definitely going to happen a lot more, and that number is probably going to get pushed down even further. We had a few late mentions here from Doom Eternal, who posted this cool infograph. I like how they kind of like inserted their characters from their game onto like the poster here. Looks really cool to check out, and yeah, I'll have a link to this tweet down below if you want to kind of grab the image. Could be used as a cool phone background. That's kind of what it looks like it's going to be used for. We had an article here from Esquire that said Todd Howard is the video game world's Christopher Nolan. With that opening and the story so far and kind of the writing, I kind of have to disagree there, although his other games were really, really good, so I guess you could say that in some aspects. And even with Steam has a very positive review right now, which I'm really, really surprised about. The game is good, but it's not great, and I think that's the unfortunate part, and kind of it doesn't really meet the expectations that I had for it. Again, it's going to be a controversial take. People aren't going to be very happy about that on a Starfield video, but I am truthful to my own experience. I have 60 plus hours in this game. I have 30 plus hours on my save. It took me about 15 hours before I actually experienced a quest that I liked, and there's been multiple quests, and I mean multiple quests, that I was not able to do exactly what I did in either Skyrim, Oblivion, or other previous RPGs. I was even teased about something in a dialogue option, and I wasn't able to do what another companion or another person in that quest line told me literally to do, and I could not do it. So this game is lacking a lot of RPG elements for me, and a lot of RPG elements in the story. Again, that's just my take on it. So I am very surprised with the very positive Steam reception on this game itself. I think that's great for it, but I was hoping for a little bit more criticism there, especially when it's being watered down so much from previous games. It definitely has me worried for Elder Scrolls 6, but we'll have to wait and see on all that, and I just hope they go back to the handcrafted stuff, and I hope they really lean on RPG mechanics instead of just watering down the experience for everybody. I won't give my full take there, as I know it's kind of controversial, especially on a Starfield video. People don't want to hear this, but I gotta be real when I can, and yeah, I'm not gonna beat around the bush with that one. That should about cover for today's video. If you like and subscribe, and until next, deuces.